Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Spotlight. I am excited to be joined by my guest today. We've been chatting a little bit about behind the scenes, and she's a mom. She's in the corporate world, and I am just really excited to hear her take. And she's made some changes in her journey in the last few years. So, welcome, Sophia Maradiaga, to the show. Thank you, Sophia, so much for taking time out of your day to be here with me today.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm actually very honored and excited to be here.
Well, I'm super grateful for your time. Before we dive in, Sophia, I'm going to give everybody a little background about you, and then we will jump right in. So, Sophia is a proud Latina woman, deeply passionate about her family and career. As a mother of two daughters, she has spent the last 4 years working remotely in sales. With a degree in finance and a master's in business, she made the bold decision to leave her banking job following the COVID pandemic. The choice allowed her to explore a newfound passion and reinvent her career path. Currently, she serves as a sales director for Startup Wars, a company dedicated to creating simulations that empower aspiring entrepreneurs and students. They provide the most innovative and realistic simulation tools designed to offer a safe and controlled environment for testing, learning, and personal growth. So thank you again, Sophia, for joining me. So I want to dive into your pivot, which is very interesting. So what brought that about? I know you mentioned it was around the pandemic time. And what were some challenges that you faced with making that decision?
Okay, so when we were hit by this, pandemic, I was pregnant with my youngest daughter,
Hmm.
and she was born in May. So it was back in the time where nobody knew what to do. We were just going with this craziness. As the bank that I used to work, the offices were shut down. So I just started working from home. But then in August, I had to go back. We were kind of forced to go back to the office. So that's when things got a little bit crazy because I mean, nobody knew how to handle this. So every time I went to the office, it was very stressful. I had to do it. It was my work. So with my husband and my mom that helped out with the girls. Oh, and also my oldest daughter, she was in first grade and dealing with virtual classes. That was painful. That was torture for all of us. For her, because she couldn't like pay attention. She got distracted so easily. And then my husband, he stayed home while I was working because he has his own company. So like, I mean, he could stay at home and help her. And my mom came to my house and helped with the baby. But it was becoming a little bit hectic. And then our nanny left because we had a nanny. So we were like, okay, so now what do? We don't have a nanny, and it's going to be really hard for my husband to be taking care of helping my daughter with her classes and my mom with the baby. So we talked about this with my husband, and he was like, you know what? You should quit. And I'm like, do you think I should? Can we do it? Luckily, like our heaviest income was his. And so, like, yeah, we decided, okay, so, it's better. Like, if we put things into a balance, it's better for me to stay home and I'll see what I'll do. In the meantime, I was wondering because I started working in finance since I graduated really, really young. So by the time I was 21, I was already working at a banking institution here I currently live in Honduras. So here in Honduras, I was working in that institution. And I had no idea what to do, because in finance, usually most of the jobs, like you have to be there. And especially back then, I think that by now people are used to working, remotely. You can work from home. But back then, at least here, it was like, no, you have to be here at the office. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take a little break, from my professional life, and I'm gonna, take care of my baby and help out my daughter that she needs help with her virtual classes. But then this opportunity came from a friend of mine that she called me and she was like, are you interested in a sales job? And I'm like, sure. Because what attracted me the most was that she mentioned, you don't have to go to an office. It will be completely remote. So you work from your house and it's gonna be easy. Like I don't have to go to an office. And I'm like, but that is my dream right now. Like, I need a job that I don't have to go to an office. Like, of course, I'm in. And then I asked her, like, what knowledge do you need from me? Because I don't have experience in sales. And I remember that she told me, don't worry about that. Like, you speak English, and that's what we need as for now. Like, all of what you need to learn, we're going to, teach you that. So that's how my journey in sales started. So it was a position as a BDR, a business development representative. And basically what I had to do, is to get more customers for this startup company that I was working for. And I had to call them. I had to cold call people, and I had to send emails, and I had to send LinkedIn DM, any type of cold outreach that I could do, I was doing it. And in my first, I remember that I was in my training, and in the first cold call that I made, and I will never forget this because I was with the person that was training me. She was shadowing me while I was making this call. And she was like, don't worry, because I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I had a script and everything. It was my first time doing that. And she's like, don't worry, usually people don't answer. You cold call them, you're gonna be cold calling, and most of the people won't answer. So don't worry. What are the chances that the first person will answer? So I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna make this call, nobody will answer. And they did answer. And I'm like, and of course, the other person couldn't help me out because she was going to be heard. So I just went with this client. And for some reason, the conversation went very smooth, and he actually booked a meeting. The purpose of that role was to book meetings with clients, and he booked the meeting. So I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God, was I lucky? I honestly think that I was lucky because they answered the phone.
Yeah.
So that
Like beginner's luck. You're wondering if you had beginner's luck. Yeah.
exactly. I'm like, okay, so that was lucky. But then, that's the way that like, my workflow kept going. People answered, and I was finding myself having conversations. And my approach wasn't like, I want to sell you something.
Right.
That was the purpose of my call. Obviously, I wanted to sell a service.
Right.
But I didn't make it, that way. So I remember that I ended up having conversations with people like for half an hour. But my boss, like, he didn't mind saying you're losing half an hour, because in the end, they ended up booking meetings.
Right.
And where I realized, like, okay, so I liked it. I kind of like what I'm doing. And that's how my journey began. Then I remember in that same company, I got promoted to sales manager, and, eventually to sales director position. It's not in the company that I'm currently working at.
Right.
And yeah, so it's been quite an interesting journey.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us, because I know it'll resonate with many listening. So tell us about Startup Wars. Tell us more about the company and your role in there now, and what do they do?
Okay, so Startup Wars is a company that creates simulations for entrepreneurs or for universities or high schools mostly for their business courses. So students, for example, they have the opportunity to create their own companies or their own businesses from scratch.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. You start building like your own company. You choose like the industry that interests you the most. For example, I want to have a restaurant. And so the students get to choose that. They choose their restaurant, and then they start everything. They get their options. How much do you want to pay yourself? And then how much do you want to invest in this and that? And the cool thing about this is, they can go bankrupt easily, but I mean, it shows them like the reality. So that's
Right.
how it actually works, in a company, like your decisions, especially like if you're the owner, your decisions will affect, like the success or not of your company. So that's the good thing about Startup Wars. We currently are working with over 100 universities in the US. We have been expanding all over the world. We have a university that's working with us in Australia. We have one in Mexico. We already are working with some universities. Well, as for this year, in Honduras, in Chile. So we're growing. And I mean, students like it. And usually when they uh, get our simulations, they keep renewing it because they last for 6 months. And usually most of them renew their license.
Mhm.
So
So you're in the sales, you're in sales for them as well, correct?
yes, I'm the sales director for Startup Wars.
Okay. And so for 2025, we're talking about growth strategies. What would be some of the strategies like when it comes to sales? What are you focused on? What is your team focused on this year as far as reaching the goals that that you and the company have?
So we are increasing our inbound and our cold outreach. We have a team, including myself, that we manage the cold outreach. So we have this list of possible customers and we reach out to them. We don't do our strategies don't include cold calling for the US because for some reason it doesn't work that much. As for Latin America, people do answer the phone in Latin America. Like we've experienced that, and I've experienced that like even from my past jobs. And we use this email tool where we have a lot of domains and we send, we do invest a lot of time creating our email sequences, very personalized, and we have a lot of domains from where we send those. And most of our cold outreach efforts come from these email campaigns. We also are very organic and thoughtful with LinkedIn. We usually, try to reach out to people that have connected with us via email. If they open our emails or reply to our emails, I usually connect with them on LinkedIn, because that makes it more possible for them to want to work with us to acquire one of our simulations. We also received a lot of inbounds because we pay for, Google ads, and we invest money in campaigns and our social media. So we do receive, and from our website as well, we have a lot of organic growth. And yeah, that's how we get our new customers and the ones that we have already. So yeah, the goal is to keep growing and expanding in Latin America because this is a new market for us. Like Startup Wars is a relatively new company, but it began all in the US. And since June, July of last year, we started, expanding and testing the Latin American market, and it has been working very well. So the idea is to keep growing. And of course, our main market is always the US, but, continue exploring these new markets in Latin America and Europe as well as part of the plan. So
It's interesting to know that there's different strategies that work in different parts of the world, and that's good for companies that might be listening. CEOs, founders, executives who are listening, and they're wanting to expand internationally. That what may work in one area may not necessarily work as well in
yeah.
another area. So, are you more in in your market, or do you have a specific market that you work in specifically?
I've been working with the Latin American market, but my main focus is in the US. And it's definitely interesting, that people, I don't know why, I don't know what's the reason behind it. Probably, I think that people in the US get more cold calls, like more sales calls. So maybe people are a little bit tired and they don't want to answer phones. And unlike in Latin America, I get calls, for example, one call every 2 months from a bank offering a credit card.
Oh,
And
okay.
I get one call a week from my internet and cell phone provider. So it's not so frequent. So maybe people are not annoyed. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if that's the reason. But yeah, for Latin America, our approach with cold calling works perfectly. People answer the phone, even with text, people answer. Here in Latin America, it's more WhatsApp. So we
Okay.
we the WhatsApp message.
Mhm.
And in the US, it's, I would say, almost 100% email campaigns, and Google Ads. That's what work. People do read their emails, so that's
Mhm.
good. And because our target, we focus on instructors and professors, maybe deans. It's people that usually are used to, open their emails to see like
Right.
what's going on. So
Yeah, they
it's
can't, they, if they miss an important email, that could be a big deal for them. That could cause a
exactly
lot of issues, I'm sure. So are you specifically, is your target market specifically universities for,
startup wars. We also work with a lot of high schools. So it's basically high
okay.
school and universities, mostly universities, but we also work with high schools in US and in Latin America as well.
Okay, I was curious because my son's going into high school next year and we're looking at a couple different high schools and one of them has entrepreneurship. So I'm curious if they have your program Startup Wars inside of that school. That would be really interesting because I think it would be phenomenal for him to utilize and to practice, play with, play around with, practice with.
Probably they might. I mean, it's very, I think that when a product is that good,
Mm,
it's very easy, to sell. And then, like I mentioned before, I would say that 90% of our customers are recurrent customers. Like, no, I mean, no, we do have new customers, but like most of them are recurrent. They always renew their license because they really like it and students really enjoy it. And for teachers, they get to see like everything, the performance and, the how the students are doing with their companies, and it even gives like a ranking. Okay, so they rank certain student as the best one so far, so they have a lot of visibility and it's really friendly to use, so it's
yeah.
very very cool actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure they must keep it fun for the kids to stay engaged and involved. I think it's
And
phenomenal. I wish, I don't know if this is something you all do, it's a possibility. So this is my question. I think more business owners, before they want to launch a business, should probably tap into this because
yeah,
I'm sure it would alleviate a lot of mistakes that we would make prior to us making them. Because, going bankrupt, in a quote unquote online gaming way is a lot different than doing it in real life.
yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And actually, back in 2016, I had a coffee shop. And now that I have like I'm working in startup bars and I try the simulations myself, I'm like, I remember that I started, I gave myself a salary since day one when I opened that coffee shop. It's no longer mine. I sold it and it still exists. It actually grew. The person that bought it expanded it, and now it has another one in another place in the city. But I'm like, if only I would have known better that it was best for me not to, give myself a salary from the start. There
Mm.
are a lot of things that I would have done differently. And I'm seeing all those mistakes, now that I try the simulations, I'm like, oh, so this is why. Like
Yeah.
I did went bankrupt with my coffee shop, but I got scared that the numbers, like I was like going flat every month. So next month, probably I'll have losses. And that's where I freaked out and I sold it. But I'm seeing all this in this simulation. So definitely they're very useful as
Yeah.
well for
Is
entrepreneurs.
that a
Yeah.
market that they want to tap into, or are they strictly, specifically just with working with universities and high schools?
Oh no, that's a market that we've actually, it's not our major, how to say, I'm sorry, it's that because English is not like my first
Okay.
language, I think in Spanish. It's not like our main
Target market?
yes, target market, but we've worked with entrepreneurs as well, and we are trying to grow, in that market because definitely they would very much have a good use of this, and it's not expensive.
Yeah.
It's actually not expensive.
I think there's a huge market there waiting for you to tap into. And it's just a matter of, okay, what's the marketing that we need to put in place for them? Because targeting them is going to be a little different through email campaigns that are working for universities and schools because they're always online. They're on their computer, they're opening their emails versus maybe the entrepreneurial more that sector, they can be targeted in different ways, like visibility through podcasts, like what you're doing right now, branching out into like those types of things. Do you all do a lot? What is your visibility strategy as far as like how you're getting out there? I know email is a major one and LinkedIn. Are there any other ways that you're getting out there? I would say in the U.S. market, I know you do a lot of one-on-one with the calls in the Latin America market. It's interesting because we do. I will. Today, I probably received, I don't know, 6 spam calls just today, and it's only 1:30 my time in the afternoon. So we do receive a lot of calls. So it's more likely that we're not going to answer it unless somebody leaves a voicemail, and then we get to decide whether we want to answer that or not. And then, as you know, life happens. You've got a little one, you've got 2 little ones, so life happens, and then we don't always make that call back.
That's right. That's exactly my thoughts, on the cold calling strategy for the US. Like you receive a lot of spam calls, like you mentioned, and at the end, they are spam because it's unsolicited calls. Like you weren't expecting that call, so they're just calling you out of the blue to offer you something. Um, we are very active in LinkedIn. We have our page, our LinkedIn page. And I think that from our pages in social media for startup bars, the one that works for us the most is definitely LinkedIn because most
Yeah.
of the teachers and people that work, deans that work in universities or high schools are active on LinkedIn. We do have other social media. So we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have YouTube.
Mm,
Our YouTube channel is actually we want to grow our YouTube channel.
yeah.
It's been quite it doesn't grow as fast, but we're getting there. LinkedIn, however, it gives us the best results. And we have a website. We write some blog posts that are very interesting. I will share the site. I don't remember if I shared it with you before. If not, I will share our website for you to go over it. And there are a lot of interesting articles. And of course, all the information about our
Right.
simulation, pricing and everything and how our simulations work. And yeah, that's basically how we get to people.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like an incredible product, and I think it's highly valuable, and I'm glad that you are out there, your company's out there doing it, and they have you on their team to help spread it out there because I think especially in the way that the world has changed and shifted when it comes to, you know, going into the workforce, knowing even if these when these children not children anymore, when they're in college, when these young adults leave college and move into the IRL real world to get a job, these skills are going to be highly beneficial to help those companies. And I know in college, I didn't have any of those skills. When you're going through marketing or business, you're learning that certain things, but you're not learning the day to day. What does it look like if I make this decision? What does it look like if I make this decision? Should I be paying? Should we be bringing on another team member? Right? What does that look like for our bottom line? Should we be investing in these marketing strategies? How will that affect our bottom line? What's the ROI on that? And the simulation, I think, is a powerful tool that
It is.
I wish I had and I would love to play with.
I'm telling you, if I would have had this back then when I decided to open my coffee shop, it would have been a different story. But then
Yeah,
again, like everything happens the way it should. So
exactly. We wouldn't be talking right now. That's for
shouldn't be
sure. We
talking
wouldn't be
about now.
talking. Yeah.
That's
So, well, I think it's incredible. I'm so excited to have met you and to be sharing you and this company and their product to the world. And I just want to say thank you again for being one of our founding guests on this new podcast. I'm so honored for you to be here and to you to be sharing your journey and also and the company as well and their mission. As a fellow mom of kids, I know what it's like to be juggling work and family and all the things. And it's always it's always a little easier when you're working for a pretty cool company.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's life changing. Yeah.
Yeah. And with everything I was sharing, not everybody now, there's so many more opportunities than I had. I'm in my 50s now. When I had leaving college, my kids are in a completely different space. My daughter's 15, almost 16. My son's 14. So the opportunities they're having leaving school, or if they choose to go to college, or whether or not they do, it's so different. So I think your product is pretty amazing, and I'm definitely going to be sharing it with them as well. And who knows, I'll see how we can play around with that, the simulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're gonna love it. I can create an account for you if you want to, if you want to try them yourself with your son. And I definitely think that this is the way that education will be, going to right now. Like as we advance in everything, like definitely education should be more about, practice of what would happen in real life, that it wasn't like that back then. Like when I was
Right.
a student, everything was so theoretical, and it's definitely changing. So
Yeah.
yeah, simulations are the future.
Absolutely. So thank you again for your time. How do we connect with you and Sophia, and where do we find you?
Okay, so my profile in LinkedIn, you can find me. My name is written like that, Sofia Maradiaga. I don't know. I will share, the my LinkedIn URL.
Yep.
On Instagram as well, it's Sofia Maradiaga, written just like that. And where else? Oh, and you can find our Startup Wars page as well on LinkedIn and startupwars.com. So yeah.
Yeah, so reach out to Sophia, connect with her, DM her, connect with her, she'll respond. And also go to the website, startupwars.com, and go check it out. Sounds like an amazing, really cool product. Yes, I would love to play around with it, Sophia. So if that's an option, I'll definitely
I will
take you up on
create
that. And
I
we
will
have
create one for you today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And we have all of your links inside of our show notes. So for any of you, if you're driving and you can't, check her out right now in the moment, please come back and grab the links in our show notes. Sophia, is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, I just want to thank you for the invitation, and it's been a very nice, entertained conversation, and I'm grateful for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. I'm grateful for you and your time. And maybe we'll do this again soon in the future. And
Sure.
thank you for listening today to the Business Growth Spotlight podcast. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we will see you in the next episode.